Welcome to Making with Marilyn. Today I'm going to make two pillowcases and infuse a design on them with Cricut Infusible Ink. You can see in the background I've already made two pillowcases. These are for one of my sisters. She has a bedroom that during the winter and Christmas season she likes to decorate in red. It's a lodge look bedroom, and so I thought that the black and red plaid, I think it's called buffalo plaid, infusible ink would be good for that room. So I've made those two, and today I'm going to go step by step with you to show you how I'm going to make two more pillowcases. One pillowcase will say sweet and the other will say dream, so together it will read sweet dreams. What I'm going to use for this project is first my computer and Cricut Design Space to create the design, and then I'm going to use the pink and black animal print infusible ink from this package. I'll use a standard grip mat. I'll cut it on my Cricut Maker. After I've done that, I will go ahead and add it to two pillowcases that I purchased at Walmart. These are the Mainstays brand, and they are 100% polyester. Mainstays at Walmart also has a blend of cotton and polyester, and the infusible ink works best on 100% polyester, so be sure and look at the label. Make sure that you do have the 100% polyester for your best results. I will use a ruler to try to get my design centered as well as possible on my pillowcases. Also, prior to using the infusible ink on fabric, you are supposed to use a lint roller to really clean off anything that could be on that fabric, even if you don't see it with your eye. Supposedly you can see it through the infusible ink, so be sure and not skip that step. Cricut also recommends when you're lifting the infusible ink off of your fabric, you use tweezers. So I have a set of tweezers. I have scissors in case I need those. They also recommend that you put a piece of white cardstock underneath the fabric. In my case, I'd put it between the two layers of the pillowcase so that in case anything goes through the first layer, it lands on cardstock and not on your back piece of fabric. And then you also use this piece of butcher paper that is included with your infusible ink, and you cover your design while you are heating it up to make it infuse into the fabric, in my case the pillowcase. The other thing that I will be using after I've cut my design is my Cricut Easy Press 2 and the mat that I purchased to go along with that. So give me a minute to get my computer set up and I'll be right back. I'm in Cricut Design Space, so we're ready to start. I'm doing a design that's words, so I'll click on the text function. I've already selected the font Better Phoenix Sample. It's a font that's on my system, so it won't cost anything to me. I'm not a member of Cricut Access, so I don't have access to their fonts for no cost. I like Better Phoenix Sample because it's a pretty script font, but it's a bulky script font, so the infusible ink will show up well on my pillowcase. I'm adding the words Sweet Dreams, so I will type those out, and then I just want to move them up so we can see them better. I'll start by making them rather large so we can see how the letters come together, and then I typically start by just making the letter space smaller, closer together, and then I ungroup. You can do it either way, or you can do a combination of both like I do. Once you ungroup them, you can move each letter individually. So I'll move them together so that they will look like a script font and not just scripted letters separated. Also, I like the first letter of my word a little bigger, so I'll make that a little bigger. Notice how it's peeking through here, so I'm going to have to move it over so it won't do that. But I also want to make it so it's not leaning back so far. So I'm going to just twist it this way. Okay, I like that. And then I need to move it over so the tail of the S is not peeking through. Oops. There we go. That looks pretty good. I think I'll make it just a little bit larger. Okay, so I'm done with sweet. So now let's work on dreams. I'll move my letters over so that they are touching nicely. They look like a script font, and they will weld nicely. And then I want to make my D a little larger. And I want my D and my S to be about the same height. The D is fatter, so it's not going to be the same width, but I want it to be about the same height, and it is. I could have just looked at, this one's 2.7, this one's 2.65, so they're close enough for me. I want it a little bit lower so that it looks like the S. It's not even with the bottom of the rest of the letters. I like that. Okay, so I want to show you, well, I'm going to need to group them first. Okay, so I'll group them all together, and then I want to change the color of the letters to show something to you. And if you already know this, fast forward through this. But if we were to make this now, not only would it cut between all of the various letters, because we have not welded it yet, but also, look at this. It just scattered the letters all over the place. If you would select them all and you would attach, the attach function is really where the letters are relative to each other when you cut it. And so we've attached them so they'll stay in the same places, but see, it would still cut in between each of the letters. So attaching it isn't really what we needed to do in this case. In this case, we need to weld it. And you see all those little cut lines go away. And when I click on Make It, you can see that it's going to cut out very nicely without the cut lines in between. Last thing though, before I cut it, I need to make sure it's the right size. Right now I can tell it's not going to be big enough. The Infusible ink is 12 inches by 12 inches. And I want to get as much out of my Infusible ink as I possibly can. And I want my letters, my words, to be as big as I can get them. So let's go ahead and select this whole thing. I'm going to move it up just a little bit. I could resize this by going, clicking on this corner thing and dragging, or since I know I want it to be 11.25 inches wide, I can click on the width up here and tell it exactly how wide I want it to be, and then I hit return and it resizes it to be that width. Now I can also see that, I think I just moved that a little bit, but that's okay. I can also see that it's only 7.5 inches or so tall, and I'd like to make it a little taller. So I'm going to unlock. I have 12 inches of ink to work with, so I might as well make it a little taller so that I can see my design better on my pillowcase. So let's do that. Okay, it's now 9.4 tall and 11.5 wide. I want to make it a little bit narrower than that. I'll just drag from here. Okay, 11.32, that's fine. So I need to lock it back, and we do need to mirror it. I typically don't mirror my actual design because I might be cutting it out of cardstock someday. You just never know. So I mirror it when it's time to cut. So I'm ready to send this to the cutter. I'm going to click Make It. I'm going to make sure I mirror it. And then I'm going to hook up my machine, turn my camera back on, and we'll continue. I'm back with my Cricut Maker, my standard grip mat, my infusible ink, and my computer, and I realized that when I told you everything you need for this project, I forgot to tell you that this heat tape, or the heat resistant tape, Teflon tape, is very beneficial. The first time I used the Cricut Infusible Ink, when I placed my Easy Press down onto the paper covering my project, I noticed it was very, very easy for it to slip slide around. And so the second pillowcase that I did, I added some of this tape to hold it really well in place. So I will be using that, and I will link to this in the description of my video. I just bought it off of Amazon.com. Okay, I also, before I came back, I went and washed my hands really well, which is what they tell you to do. They tell you that you should not have any of the oils from your hands touching the infusible ink. So let's take this out of here and see what we have. The other thing is, when you use your infusible inks, the final product is a lot more vibrant than what you see coming out of the box. Here, this is the pattern I'm going to use. Sorry, that's probably loud. There's also this animal print. Again, it would be much more vibrant. And then there is a purple and kind of a purpley blue, but I'll set those aside for now. So take your cover off your Cricut mat, and then this back side, the shiny side, this is actually your carrier sheet. So that does need to be face down, and that is why you have to mirror your image before you cut it. Okay, so let's go ahead and put this down. It is very curled coming out. So in this case, and I don't have a brayer, in this case I think I'm going to grab my other standard grip mat that is a lot newer than this one. So give me just a minute for that. Okay, I'm back with my newer standard grip mat. The only time I've used this mat was when I did my pillowcases that I showed you earlier in this video. I think I'll save this just to use with infusible ink. Again, the shiny side is your carrier sheet, so that needs to go face down. If your hands have any oil on them, I would not recommend doing this. I would use a brayer or even put some fabric over it and then rub onto the fabric, but I did just wash my hands. Okay, so I'm ready to send this to my maker. Let me look at my cutting blade. Okay, it looks good. I don't know that you can see this, but I want to click Make It. I want to make sure my mirror is on. There we go. Continue. And then I see right here Infusible Ink with transfer sheet. So I would click on that. It tells me to use my fine point blade, which I made sure was in my machine. This light's flashing, you can't really see it, so I can go ahead and send my project to my maker. And the Cricut button is flashing, so I'll go ahead and send it. the cut is finished, so I'll go ahead and unload it, and then I'll turn the camera off, get things rearranged, and I'll be right back. We're ready to start weeding this project, which can be tricky in and of itself. So let me go ahead and remove my infusible ink from my mat. I typically like to turn my mat over. In this case, I have a sheet of paper under the infusible ink to protect it. You don't want to scratch it. Any scratch that you get in it will show up on your project. Okay. Now, they say to weed this, you start rolling until you hear it kind of breaking free. Before I start weeding though, I want to cut my excess away so that I can save it for another project. I have probably somewhere around 3 inches left at the bottom, other than over here by the D. So I want to cut that away so I can keep that. All right, let's see what happens. Where to start? And it actually looks like, no, I thought it cut through my transfer sheet, but it did not. Okay. They also suggest that you do not use a typical weeding tool on this so that you don't scratch any of your letters. Okay, so I'm going to roll this little inside of this S, and it is popping up, so I'll peel that off. This is not easy. Okay, here's the inside of my D, so I just kind of roll that and that pops up. Oh, that was my D. Okay, push that back down. Roll the inside of my D up. There we go. Start pulling that out. And hopefully that'll give me a large piece to pull from. Okay, this is tricky. I need help from a professional out there. Here we go. Okay, once you get it really started, it does get easier. It's just nerve-wracking to me because, let me turn this, nerve-wracking to me because this is not cheap stuff. Hopefully you can see some of this. There's quite a bit of excess here. I wish I would have cut that out. And I think I will. Okay, so I have it weeded, except I need to get some of the insides of my letters out. Just kind of pull it over and they pop up. Be careful that your fingernails don't scratch the infusible ink. You can see on a piece of it would be waste, but I will cut something out of this that it's got scratched there. It is pretty easy to scratch, so be careful. Oh, I almost missed one. So I want to turn it around and read it from the back so that I can see if I have everything out. Okay, I do. So I just need to cut these apart, since one goes on one pillow and the other goes on the other pillow. All right, since we have that done, let me get my Cricut Easy Press set up, and I will probably go ahead and iron out the pillowcases a little bit first so that they're nice and smooth. I'll get set up right here and I'll be right back. Okay, my head's cut off a little bit, but I know you'd rather see the project than my head, so we'll go ahead and get started. I have my Cricut Easy Press mat under my pillowcase. I ironed my pillowcase and then I pressed it for 15 seconds in the area where the design will go to get the moisture out, which they tell you to do. Then you need to let it cool off completely. So the Cricut Easy Press mat needs to be cool and the pillowcase needs to be cool. Otherwise, when you put your infusible ink down, it might actually start to infuse before you get it exactly where you want it. So I also need to put my white cardstock inside my pillowcase. When I did my other set of pillowcases, there was no infusible ink on my cardstock, so I assume it didn't bleed through at all, but I want to do what you're supposed to do and be extra cautious. Also, I want to center my design between the actual pillow part. So you have this excess over here that just kind of hangs back, but the actual, you know, I'm talking about the end here, but the actual pillowcase part is from this hand to this hand. So I'm going to start with my dreams pillow. Before I do anything though, I just about forgot this step. I need to make sure that everything, every piece of lint or anything that's on there is removed. And on this white pillowcase, I actually can see several little fibers on my pillowcase. All right, that should be good. I'll make sure I don't see anything on my infusible ink. It looks clean to me. Now, this carrier sheet is sticky, obviously, because the infusible ink is stuck to it. So I don't want to push it down very hard yet. I want to make sure it's in the middle where I want it. I want it to be centered somewhat from top to bottom and side to side. And so right now, I'm just going to measure how much room is there from this side to where the D starts. And there's almost 9 inches. And then the S to this edge is only 7 inches. So I need to move it over. And I think I need to move my cardstock over a little bit. Okay. So now 8.5 and okay, keep going. I have that preset to 385 and I'm going to press it for 40 seconds. So I do have that preset. Okay, so over here it was 8.5 and over here is 7.5, so just a little bit further that way. I'm actually going to cheat it slightly this way because a little bit of this part that hangs back will show. I learned on the bears that I did, you want to cheat it a little bit toward that way. So a little more than 8.5. And nope, still need to go that way. Make sure it's really smooth. Well, now I've gone too far. Sorry, I just want it to be as perfect as a project as possible. Okay, we're going with that. Then I also want to see if it's about the same from top to bottom. 8. And I want to take into consideration that this goes up further than it goes down, so it's not going to be exactly centered, but it's going to be close. 8.5, a little less than 8.5, so I'm going to go up just a little bit. All right, hopefully this is the last measurement. 1/4, 8, good, because I wanted a little closer that way. There, up and above is about 8, so we are going to call that good. Again, I want to make sure this is nice and tight, stretched out nice and tight. Okay, they also tell you that the sheet that they provide for you needs to be larger than the carrier sheet. And in my case it is. And so it's time to do it. I'm a little nervous. Oh, wait. I want to stick it down with this tape so that it doesn't slightly move. There we go, there's the end. It's kind of hard to find. It would probably be fine if my tape were over a letter, but I don't know that for sure, so I'm just going to make sure that the tape is not on top of my letters. Okay. The moment of truth. Now, again, I have my Easy Press set at 385, and it will press for 40 seconds. They recommend that your design is waist high, maybe a little lower than that, so that you can put some firm pressure against your project. And you're supposed to put it as straight down as possible. So, here we go. It's been several minutes since I used my heat press on the design. You are supposed to let it cool completely. So let me lift the butcher paper. Ooh, I can tell that the backing is already lifted off of the ink. So hopefully that's a good sign. Okay, that's pretty cool. So let me remove my tape. Okay, so they say to use tweezers to lift your design off and to try to lift straight up. Oh my goodness, that's pretty. All right, that's a great result. Let me take my cardstock out. I do need to press it some before I put it on my pillow, but look how beautiful that is. Hopefully you can really see that and see how vibrant those colors are. Okay, so I am going to go ahead and do the sweet pillow, and then at the end of this video I will show you both pillowcases on pillows. So I'll be right back. Here's my final product. As you can see, they turned out really nicely. Working with Cricut Infusible Ink is not difficult, but it is very tedious. Before you start a project, make sure that you have everything that you need and don't skip any of the suggested steps. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up or a like. If you have any questions or any suggestions for me, leave me a comment. And if you'd like to see what projects I'll be doing in the future, hit the subscribe button. I'm Marilyn. Bye-bye.